Hello and welcome to this winter edition of Westrail News. In this program we cover stories that wave the flag for Westrail around the state. Plus we have a special segment with the Commissioner, so stay with us. Our opening story is a tribute to our whole organisation. An outdoor exhibition by 80 government agencies and departments saw Westrail mount a superb display that took more than a little planning. With that story, here's Peter Holland.
Perth Esplanade was the unusual city location for temporary track work last month. Smartly executed in the cold hours of early morning, the 100 feet of track was part of a special display for Perth's first public service expo. Westrail's display was a team effort involving the combined expertise of civil engineering, operations, marketing and mechanical branches, and the requirement for a true-to-life display meant that the centrepiece, a 17-ton XU grain wagon, had to be transported by road from Forestfield to the site in Perth. It was an operation that went off without a hitch, with the superb exhibit becoming the focal point of the display. The Westrail display was designed to attract all age groups and presented hands-on displays on level crossing safety, electrification and the history of rail.
Well, Expo was created to do a number of things. One was to tell the public a lot more about what the public sector does for the people of Western Australia and show them what it does. Another thing was to perhaps break down the image of the public servant as a rather faceless person. And the third thing, I'm sure, was to increase the morale amongst public servants themselves. Well, we created a visual theme, which you can see, and the theme of facts and information. But after that, really, we took our small space and crammed into it as much of the best of Westrail that we could assemble. Then we got electrification involved and the management of that project. Level crossing safety, which is an important aspect of what we're doing in the city. Something on track developments, the history of grain. We represented computerisation with something for kids, which is the plotter, which gives them a certificate to take home to say they've been to Expo. There's a special section on tours and travel, which is one of the highly successful parts of Westrail. Heaps of information, of course, giveaways and things for the kids and for adults to take away. Really, we're overwhelmed with the response. I think our display is by far the most popular, not only for the giveaways, but for the information that people are taking away with them too.
The Perth 89 Public Service Expo, a lesson in government for the people of Perth and a tribute to the creativity of Westrail that'll certainly lead to a brighter public perception of our organisation.
And the accolades from the public were most gratifying. We'll have our work cut out to top that next time. Good job, well done. The lifeblood of our rail system, of course, is the track. It's perhaps easy to take for granted this huge investment we've tied up at ground level. And the logistics involved in maintaining it are complex and expensive. With a story on one small part of this investment, here's Ron Steele.
It's hard to comprehend the amount of railway sleepers required for a 22-kilometre stretch of track, but the short answer is 30,000, and that's the number of sleepers always on hand here at the Westrail Sleeper Depot in Picton.
The sleepers from the mills come in by rail and by road transport now. And these are offloaded and stockpiled in this area behind us. And from here they're picked up as required and taken into the plant and processed. We set the plant up to accommodate the different pattern or the patterns required. And they're taken into an unbundling table, and from there we have a couple of chappies just turning them over and making sure the sap side is up. They then go through, and if they're being adged, they're adged. If they're to be plated, well then they just go through and get drilled. And from there they go down a conveyor, through rollers which have got a series of teeth on them and they're incised, and then down to the far table where they're bundled. And from there, if they're to be treated, they're picked up and taken up in the copper's yard. They're loaded onto trolleys in copper's yard and pushed down into big cylinders where they're given this Bolton treatment. The sap is extracted out of the sleeper and it's replaced with an oil. If they're being used for gang stocks, we take them straight up into our own holding yard and they're loaded from there.
The depot has been in operation for 12 years, and the centre of Westrail's sleeper supply is only just keeping up with the huge demand. And if timber remains the preferred media for sleeper manufacturer, the depot's capacity will need to increase even more so to keep up.
The development of the sleeper is going through a revolution at present, and we'll bring you more about that in our next edition. We're receiving a great response to our viewers' video segment. There are some keen video photographers out there, it's great to see. Jim Lachlan of the Civil Branch Perth and Lyle Fleming of the Division Engineers Office Bunbury have sent in vision of a day seminar held down in Picton recently. The seminar was organised to familiarise staff with the safe operation of tools and equipment and included practical demonstrations. The seminar is planned to become an annual event. Down to the Great Southern region now, where a safety award was presented to the Motive Power staff for a milestone achievement: 100,000 accident-free work hours. The award was presented by Ron Wadham, and congratulations from all of us here for a brilliant unbroken safety record. And thanks also to Charles Hulbert of Motive Power Perth for his contribution. Colin Hommey now takes us up to Three Springs for a look at a culvert replacement carried out by Westrail crew in April at the 289 kilometre peg. The structures team from Geraldton took a week under most difficult conditions to complete the job. And moving way down south now, John Angel, the District Mechanical Officer Albany, has recorded the Albany celebration of the GSR centenary we covered from Katanning in our last edition. Area Manager Mick Bell informed the large gathering that though the line was opened in Beverley 100 years ago, it was never officially opened in Albany. He took great pleasure in performing that duty on the day. Thanks for your contributions, one and all. We appreciate your effort in keeping us up to date with local items of news. And as always, should you wish to contribute video footage or simply make a comment or suggestion for the program, we welcome your input. Address your mail, Westrail News, care of Westrail Public Affairs, Perth. The end of May saw a very special meeting of heads of branches, senior personnel and union executives at the Westrail Centre. The meeting was arranged to outline Westrail policy for the coming 5 years and showed that Westrail will become an increasingly valuable part of WA's future economic development. The Westrail Theatrette was the venue for the 1989 planning briefings. The meetings enabled discussion and were chaired by the Commissioner, Dr. Jim Gill.
The purpose of today's session, as you are aware, is to look at the 5-year plans, especially the plans for next year, and the heads of branches will do that during the day. What I'm going to do now is just run through a few things. It's always good to start with the mission statement and the objectives, and we reviewed these last year and decided this is what our role really is: help maximise the competitiveness of the industries we serve and to provide attractive, efficient community services. Because what we are doing at the moment is handling a massive urban development project, which is going to be 400 million in round figures over the next 4 years. A really massive project, and we're doing that extremely well. We're facing market upturns in every single aspect of our business. We are at competitive rates on many of our traffics. We are below them in certain key areas. And competitive to date has really meant just that, pricing at or below road rates. And we have made tremendous progress against that. Now, I think what we have to do now is ask ourselves, how much more traffic would we get if those trains were clockwork? And how much more would it cost? I mean, really the question probably is how much less would it cost? Because our resource utilisation would be better in terms of staff and of assets. But above all, I think if there's going to be a theme for the coming years, it really has to be on the basis of competitive Westrail, competing not only on price but on quality as well. And I think we can expect a buoyant industry from then on. Thanks very much.
And further to that story, we've arranged to speak with the Commissioner, who's presently overseas, through a video link-up in our studio. So, first of all, Jim, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Russell.
What's the purpose of the annual planning briefing?
The purpose of the briefing really is to explain to the top 100 managers in Westrail the end result of the corporate planning process to which they've contributed throughout the year. It's rather unique. Not many organisations do it, but we certainly take it very seriously.
Are there any major changes to our overall objectives?
Well, we place a lot of store on our corporate objectives, and certainly there are some changes. Basically, the competitive direction of Westrail is sustained, but we see in future a new emphasis on quality. We're not now aiming at making a profit. We're aiming at doing what we do without subsidy and with an appropriate return on capital. And we're looking at making our passenger services attractive.
You've developed a mission statement for Westrail, and I quote, "to help maximise the competitiveness of West Australian industry and to provide attractive, efficient community services." Can you explain the implications behind that statement?
Well, I think you've got to look at why we exist, especially as a government-owned agency, and really we need to be an economic and social asset to the state. And what that means is we have to be an asset, we have to add value to the industries we serve, and since we're very largely an export-oriented state, that means adding to the competitiveness of WA industry.
What about our community services obligations?
Well, I think, Russell, it's important that we provide attractive ones, and right now we've got the means to do that. We've got modern equipment, we've got well-trained and enthusiastic staff. I don't call them community service obligations anymore. I think we should call them community service opportunities, because really they give us the opportunity to show the public of Western Australia just what modern rail is all about.
There's been a large-scale decrease in the number of Westrail staff in the last 10 years or so. Do you see this trend continuing?
There certainly has been a big decrease in staff, and we're leaner and more efficient for it. In future, I see the emphasis being on the quality of what we do, getting the trains running like clockwork, working with our clients to try to maximise the real attractions of rail. And I do see productivity improvements in the future, which will invariably lead to reductions in costs and in staff. But I think the primary focus has to be quality.
How does the overall future look for Westrail?
Extremely bright, Russell. Right now we've got a massive injection of capital into the metropolitan system, and that's going to be first class. Every aspect of our freight business is booming, including grain and including intersystem and general freight. The outlook is extremely good.
Jim, thanks very much for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you in person. Commissioner Jim Gill. Turning now to Westrail staff training, our cameras visited the Guildford Training Centre for an insight into their trainee Trackmasters course. Here's Ron Steele.
Every day it's a case of schools in for Keith Bradley at the Westrail Training Centre at Guildford. Keith is the training officer for the Trackmasters course of the school, and his diligent pupils are trackmen from around the state. The course aims to provide trainees with the skills and knowledge necessary to perform Trackmasters duties and to standardise work practices throughout the Westrail network.
Well, since 1980 we've run about 5 or 6 of the trainee Trackmaster courses. The last one was 1985. We give them the basics, or the basic theory of track structure. We work right through to use of plant and machinery, safe working, man management, right through all the skills that a Trackmaster really requires, timekeeping, report writing, and all the other basics. I started off actually in 1975 when the school first started down here. Since then we've had trainee Trackmaster and Trackmaster courses. We've put through in excess of 220 people as trained Trackmasters.
The 3-month Trackmasters course inducts between 10 and 15 trainees each intake and helps Westrail maintain the standards that make it the most efficient rail network in Australia.
And I believe the guys passed with flying colours. Good on you. That's almost all we have for you this program. Be watching our next edition, where we'll concentrate on Westrail's interstate business and travel services, brought to you live from the Indian Pacific. Our camera crew will be working flat out to bring you that special on-location edition. Actually, their eating habits leave a bit to be desired, and I'm tentatively titling the program Burger on the Orient Express. Hope it doesn't come to that. Our final story today takes a look at Westrail's concern for the environment with our involvement in Greening Australia's Arbor Day project at Grass Valley. With that story, here's Peter, and we look forward to seeing you all again.
The kids of WAGR and the 4 northern primary schools had a special lesson in the environment recently as part of Greening Australia's Ribbons of Green project. Ribbons of Green is an ambitious scheme to transform our major roads and arteries by planting hundreds of thousands of trees along our over-cleared road verges. And more than 100 children were chosen to assist in the task. Westrail's Prospector was coined the Green Express and took the children to Grass Valley for their special Arbor Day planting. The 2-hour journey saw the kids ready and raring to do their bit for the environment in what became a media event.
It is a very important project, as I said, and it's something that really can show the example. I would also like to take the opportunity of thanking Westrail, the Main Roads Department, the local councils in particular, the Education Department, everyone that has been involved in one way or another in getting this project off the ground.
The Ribbons of Green project is an enormous task, with stage 1 alone geared to plant 150,000 trees from Perth to Kalgoorlie along Great Eastern Highway. Westrail's concern for the environment is nowhere better seen than in its policy to increase the number of native plants on railway land. Each year, Westrail plants between 5,000 and 10,000 native plants, and the Green Express is yet another contribution to Australia and our children's future.